Okay, here is a good news story among all the bad news about climate change and everything else now. Uh, that Europe actually has helped wildlife make a comeback through their conservation efforts. So here are some comparisons, of the populations of many species compared to 1960 and percentage change population to 2013 or latest study year, depending on which species. So look at all these species. Eurasian beaver, 14,000% increase from 2,400 in 1960 to 337,539 beavers. Similarly, European bison, 3,000%, Iberian ibex, southern chamois, red deer, gray wolf, roe deer, harbor seal, brown bear, gray seal, 900% increase there, alpine ibex, Eurasian lynx, wild boar, wolverine, Eurasian elk, northern chamois, and Iberian lynx, which had seen the number drop from 1860 to 279 in 2010, is bounced now to 1100 by 2020. So it's still down compared to 1960, but there is a recovery on the way, hopefully. How does it happen? The most important factor, of course, is that Europe remains very progressive on climate policy, climate awareness, climate finance, renewables, transportation, regulations for corporations, and in general politicians. And of course, Europe has also managed to increase its agricultural output with sustained yield increases per hectare, rather than just expanding amount of land used for agriculture. So looking here at agricultural output, total agricultural output is the sum of crop and livestock products. It's measured in constant 2015 US dollars, which means it adjusts for inflation. So it had seen an increase from the 1960s through the end of 1980s, with a bit of a drop in the 1990s, and then there's been a recovery since back to the peak times of the early 1990s or late 1980s. This obviously has a lesson for Africa as well, as we'll see in a minute. But the other thing to be noted is that the largest mammals that went extinct in the past also remain at the greatest risk of extinction today. So go back to the Pleistocene 1.8 million years ago with our ancestors and look at the numbers over the continents: North America, Australia, Africa, and South America. In terms of body masses, towards the left are smaller mammals, and towards the right are larger mammals with more than a ton or more than tens of tons of body mass. So you can see that species that survived the Pleistocene extinction were the smaller mammals. Species that went extinct were the larger mammals, mostly killed through overhunting. Australia has seen a massive extinction of the megafauna as well, colonized much later. Similarly, Africa in older days had a co-evolution and a better coexistence of human ancestors, humans in general, and megafauna, but now overhunting is a problem in Africa as well, which is why we need to look at land use for food production. South America, similar story. Risk of extinction today, similarly for North America, Australia, Africa, and South America. We can look at those threatened by hunting, habitat loss, restricted range, or other threat, and those that are not threatened. So the not threatened ones are at the smaller body size scale, and those that are larger body mass, larger mammals, obviously at much higher risk of extinction in all continents. So most large mammals already went extinct in Australia. Many large mammals are threatened with overhunting today in Africa. There are ideas that maybe trophy hunting and the money generated from that can help conservation efforts. You may remember the controversy generated by a dentist who killed a lion. You have to think why hunt lions when you're not going to eat the meat? So at least if you're hunting something which is going to be consumed, maybe that makes more sense. I don't know. People hunt for whatever reason animals that they don't eat. So here, habitat loss and other pressures now impact smaller mammals as well in South America, which is bad news, especially together with deforestation of the Amazonia and the fact that Amazon is now considered to be a source of carbon rather than a sink, I think. Hunting tends to affect largest mammals, so most larger mammals have already gone extinct in South America as well. Okay, so human hunting has in general driven down the largest mammals to extinction. So if you go back to 1 million years ago to the Holocene, you can see here weighted mass of large and medium-sized mammals in each fossil layer. Looked at this Levantine region here, where agriculture evolved and expanded from there out. So you can see that in a logarithmic scale, large mammals that existed in the past have constantly been driven down to smaller body mass that remain. So these were hunted down and went extinct. So Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and Sapiens have all done their contribution to this disaster. In general, there is an idea that hunter-gatherers are somehow more in harmony with nature, but there is controversy about whether that's really true or not. So coming back to Africa, if you compare cereal yields in 2019 to the various countries from Belgium to India, Africa is way down here at 1.63 tons per hectare, whereas India is more than double at 3.4, China is at 6.28 tons per hectare, and Belgium is at a whopping 9 tons per hectare, and US is doing well at 8 tons per hectare as well. And how do crop yields affect land use for food production? If you look at South Asia, which has achieved all of its increased food production through higher yields, compared to 1980, the land used is almost the same, 132 million hectares. The cereal production has gone from 189 million tons in 1980 to 440 million tons in 2018, because the yield has gone from 1.4 ton per hectare up by 133% to 3.4 tons per hectare, whereas in sub-Saharan Africa, increased food production has occurred mostly through expansion of land. So land used in 1980 was 48 million hectares with 53 million tons of production, whereas in 2018, 112 million hectares were used for growing cereals, and the yield is at 161 million tons. So a tripling of the production, but also almost a tripling of the land used for production. That's not good news. In general, change in land used for agriculture from 1800 to 2010 has shown declines through the Green Revolution, fertilizers, and technology, and so on. Hopefully we'll continue with smart agriculture and so on, because remember, agriculture still contributes significantly to greenhouse gases as well as land use and other direct, indirect impacts. So Sweden, Portugal, Netherlands, UK, Belgium, and Italy has dropped negative in terms of relative land used for agriculture. France and Germany are doing very well as well. Okay, so obviously Africa has to be helped with increasing food production by increased yields per hectare, so that population increase and food demand are not met by simply increasing land used for agriculture, because that always comes at a cost of habitat loss for animals and wildlife human conflicts at the edges, especially when driven by climate signals like El Nino, for example, which can reduce food production because of droughts, but also can reduce food availability in forests for animals like elephants. Then elephants tend to invade the villages looking for food in agricultural land and end up getting killed by humans who get angry because animals are eating their crops. So this kind of cascading compounded events can make situation worse. So increasing yield, increasing food production by increased yield per hectare is going to be very critical for Africa as well to turn around the overhunting that's been going on. Okay, let's leave it here. It's a good news story, so I wanted to include it and leave it with a message for Africa that it still has an opportunity to increase yield, increase food production, and reduce impact on wildlife. Okay.